Hey guys, in this video I will discuss how a starter works on your car. I will take it apart and show you the internal components and how they work, and how to rebuild it and check for wearing stuff that is worn. Right. I've made other starter videos. Just want to talk about real quickly. One starter video I made was on how to shim it. Now this particular starter is a high performance one, more for like racing engines and stuff like that. However, anything that I show here pertains to a regular starter light and regular cars because the principles are basically the same. Now when I did the how to shim a starter video, I showed you two different ways to shim it. One using these shims here and one using this. For regular starters, this is the shim on regular cars that you use. You basically put it between the actual starter and the engine block. And I told you what clearance you need for that. Also, this here is for starters like these. These give you the additional adjustability on the actual flywheel gear, back and forth. And I also spoke about that. And these shims are in here and in here where the pinion is. I'll show you where those are located. Also, quickly, one more thing. When you use starters like these, especially the Chevy ones, make sure they're knurled, the bolts. This does two things. It indexes the starter with your engine block, so the clearances when it's shimmed, it's done correctly. And also, it also provides a little more clearance in here. Sorry, a little less clearance when you put the bolt in, and pretty much holds this in place very sturdily, because these require, they torque a lot. They're high torque starters. Even one for your car, a regular car, they're very torquey, so it keeps that in place. So just to keep that in mind. I also made a video on how to do a voltage drop test on your car. Meaning the cables going to your starter could be bad. So there's a test I did for that. You could just search my channel for that. I show you how to do that. And I did a video on how to bump start it if you're adjusting valves. And I think that's it. So let's get going here. First thing I want to do is test this thing, the whole electrical circuit in one shot, and this is how you do that. On this armature casing here, the starter casing, you're going to see a wire going from the solenoid up here to this casing. So take that wire off. By the way, I also made a video on how to test this thing. I made a lot of videos off the car with jumper cables. So you could actually pinpoint exactly what's wrong with your starter. So you take this off, the thick cable, going to the actual body of the starter. Then you set your ohm meter, your multimeter to ohms, the higher setting. And always check your ohms to make sure they're correct by touching them together. Sorry, make sure you get a close to 0 reading. And I get a 1.1. So I know 0.1 is when these two touch. So it's good. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect the positive to this cable, the tab of the starter. Then I'm going to connect the negative to the casing of the starter and take a look at the reading. Now hold on, you have to make sure it stabilizes. So 0.3, 0.2, 0.3, actually more 0.3. Alright, so 0.2, 0.3, I'm a reading above when I touched them together, so that's good. And if this reading was an OL, in my case, that means there's no resistance. That means there's something bad in here. Because what you're pretty much testing is, and I'll show you when I take everything off what I'm talking about, the actual starter gets ground from the engine of the car, because your negative side, your battery, goes from the frame to your starter, sorry, to the engine, and from the engine, this grabs the actual ground from there when it gets bolted up to the engine. So negative goes to the case, and positive goes through here, and this connects straight to the brushes. The positive brushes through the coil, the field coils, and those brushes feed it into the commutator, into the armature coils, then back up into your ground brushes, then through the case from the bolts here. So that's what you're actually testing, that whole circuit. That's how it flows inside the starter. Now let me start taking this apart, and I'm also going to check, I'll show you how to check everything inside, the field coil windings, the armature, so far and so forth. Also, one other thing to note, if your car say it's not running right, say it's not starting, one other thing you could do is have somebody, so you're stuck in a parking lot somewhere in a shopping mall, and you just wanted it just to start so you could bring it home or to your mechanic. You could try going underneath and tapping this, or if you could tap it from on top of the car. Tap the solenoid a little bit, tap the case a little bit, don't go too crazy in the case, more on the solenoid. And sometimes that loosens up the brushes in here, and sometimes it frees up a sticky solenoid. This particular starter now is clockable. Now what that means is, and this is not something you're going to find in a regular car, you can actually move the starter around using these adjustment holes here. And you pretty much could adjust it from here all the way to here. So you have that many degrees of adjustability. Now what that does is, it moves the solenoid away from heat, like headers, and it moves it closer to the block. You could clock it over. Also, sorry about that. If you have any turbo pipes, this also clears that, you could clock it over. Like I said, this is not a regular starter, so your regular starter won't have that. Now, first thing to do here, in here is an Allen-headed bolt. And let me get the Allen keys for that. I have my Allen keys here, and I think I know which one it is. I think it's this one. Yep, that's the one. And let me try this one more time. It's in there. This one's there. There you go. Now what I did was, in the starter, I actually loosened all the bolts to make it less grueling for you guys. And this actual starter has two Phillips head bolts on the other side. That also holds this block in place. Now here you can see the pinion gear. That's the pinion gear. And that's what actually engages your flywheel or flex plate gear. And let me take this block off using my Phillips head. And this has two over here. 1, 2. So these are loose already. Oh, another thing to note about the starter, if you notice a lot of starters here, you can't, these gears are not exposed. That's because this is a more race type starter, and if you drive this on a street, you run the risk of having road debris kick in and come in here and actually jamming this thing. So this is why this is not really a great idea to drive on the street, even though a lot of people do. But I guess whatever floats your boat. Usually you see that thing covered, or they put it inside the, I've seen where they put them inside the actual housing. This is like a housing that, you know, on the motor that actually goes into on certain cars, the pinion gear. Alright, so this is out. You just pop that out like that. And this is the first shim I was talking about, the round one. And that essentially that places this gear back and forth on that block. And this is the other shim that this one has. And this here is your Bendix. Just gotta wiggle that out. So we can take that out. Okay, it's a little harder. That thing's in there. So we could pop that thing out. Whew. It's not coming out. Come on, baby, come out. Why don't you want to come out, huh? There we go. This is live, folks. You won't see this anywhere else. Live and uncut. Alright, let me hurry up here. Take my time. So this is the Bendix. That's what it looks like. And what happens is, actually, let me show you what the solenoid does too real quick. The solenoid, once it's activated, I also showed this on my how to bug start video, so I'm not going to actually tell you exactly what the wires here do. You're basically connecting, I'll tell you real quick, you're connecting the battery cable here to your thick stud, and the other stud over here is connected when the solenoid gets energized. The solenoid gets energized, let me go closer here, you can see that. See the tab here? That's from the ignition hot. Once the ignition goes all the way to cranking, this here gets power. And what that does, this is basically a relay. And if you don't know how a relay works, watch my relay video. I have videos for everything. So, when that gets energized, there's an electromagnet in here, and what it does is, it pulls up, the solenoid pulls in, and it contacts these two, which gives power straight to the motor here via this big cable I was talking about. Now, another thing that it does is, actually the first thing it does once this thing gets energized, there's a lever in here, and it pulls it in from here, and it's like a lever, so it comes up over here. So when that comes up over here, it pushes on its Bendix down here, it pushes it in, and it turns, because there's a helical gear over here, and it turns and it goes onto the flywheel / flex plate. See how it turns? This thing contacts first, then the contacts give power to the motor. Or else your pinion gear here would be turning, and you hear all sorts of grinding noise when it engages the actual flywheel / flex plate. Now, there's a bearing here, and there's a bearing here. If these go bad, you could put a little puller on here and just pull it out. Same thing here. But normally, if this is bad, you replace the whole thing. And there's also overrunning clutch in here. So once the motor does start running and this is engaged, it's not going to move the starter motor inside. The clutch is going to let it freewheel. So that's another thing that the Bendix does. It's a pretty cool piece, isn't it? All right, next. Also, don't forget to look wherever there's gears. Make sure there's no scoring, pitting. You know, they look good. You can just visually inspect it or run your finger across it. It'll float your boat. All right, and always coat the gears with a little bit of grease. Like this one has some white lithium grease. Okay, next. We could take the solenoid out. This solenoid, now the biggest problem with these starters is usually the solenoid goes bad. This is like a $20 piece. You know, save you $400 or $500 if you actually bring the whole car to a mechanic or whatever. They'll charge you, you know, through the knows to do this. So let me take this off real quick. And like I said, these are loosened already. So all I gotta do is just take them off. It's one bolt, and there's another one here. And it pops right out. Be careful, that's under tension. So I'll show you. I'm gonna have a part 2 to this video. Sorry, and I will discuss and show you how to put this back together. So as you noticed here, it's under tension, and I'll show you what it looks like when you bring it back together. So be careful when you take this one out. And this is what happens here. You see a little hole in the middle? Hold on a second. Right there. That's where the lever goes, and the lever gets pulled down over here, and then once the Bendix, the pinion gear shoots on the flywheel, these contacts get connected as this goes down. You can see that. That's the solenoid. And this solenoid has a lock washer and a nut on it. Right, so there goes that. Now here, you see a lever in there? I don't know if you can see it. There's an actual lever in there, but right there in the middle, that shiny piece. Now, we could take these 2 bolts off on the bottom, and I'll take the whole starter apart. Let's do this. It's 1 bolt. Now, remember this, because this will come in handy later. These bolts, remember how I said this bolts onto the engine block? These bolts here are what takes that ground from the engine block, from the case, into the actual brush holder. So I'll show you what I mean in a bit when I get there. These are long bolts, so you're always going to have these long bolts over here. Okay. Long bolt. And now this whole piece comes right off. Okay. Sit that there. And you can see the lever in here. See that lever? And there's a lever that goes from the solenoid. I'll show you how the solenoid sits in there real quick, if you want to, curious to know how this works. And that's how it works, like that. The second part of the video, I'll show you how to put everything together. See, it goes down and pulls up on the actual Bendix. I'll show you exactly how to put this back together in my second part of this video. Now, remember what I said here. One more thing to note. This was already apart, so it kind of went out here, but I'll show you what I mean. Okay, now remember I said these long bolts. There's 2 pieces here. There's this case, and there's a cap on top the 2 long bolts go through. Alright. Now, that bolt goes through here. It goes through here, and this is the brush holder. So you're going to see 2 of these brushes here, 2 of these holders, have plastic underneath. Those are insulated from the actual plate, which is grounded through the bolts to the block. So the ones that have plastic underneath, those brush holders, those are the positive brushes. The other ones are negative because they're grounded straight to the brush holder. Now, let me take this apart. Now, how this works here is, this is a wear item in your starter. So sometimes when you tap the starter, these are a little worn out and loose, and sometimes this pushes them out a little bit, and you're able to start the car. You'd still need to rebuild this. You could also take this whole holder out and replace it. You can also replace the actual carbon brushes over here. How you get this off is, if you're wondering, there's a coil over here, a metal coil, and it's wrapped out tightly so it has a spring to it. and then it clamps it in here, in there. See, that's the coil right there, and it clamps it into. There's a little thing in the side here, a little groove that the spring goes into and holds it. So let me take one out. I'm gonna take the positive one out. I'll take 2 positive ones out. And you need a pair of needle nose for that. Needle nose pliers. And the positive ones, like I said, the ones with the plastic on them. You see a little plastic? I'm pointing to it right there. If I could get it in there. That's what she said. Right there. That's what he said. Hold on a second. Oh, my finger is. See that piece right there? That's the plastic. Alright, so that's how you do that. You grab the coil from here, from the side of the brush holder. You grab onto that coil. Then you twist it out. You see how it came out there? You see that? Get a better angle. And once that comes out like that, you could just grab the brush and pull it out. Now let me try doing this for you guys. Okay. It's out. Then I pull out the brush. Oops. Out and pull out the brush. And that's what the brush looks like. And that's the housing in there. And that's the side where that little springy thing goes. Holds it in. Now let me take all of them out. And let me do this real quick. So not to bore you guys. Out. Out. And out. So this is the brush holder. They also sell this piece because, like I said, these get worn out. So if you don't want to futz around with these brushes, you could just buy this actual piece here. And this is the ground side, and that's the plastic I was talking about. You see the plastic over there? So you know that's the positive side. Now let me show you how to test the field coil in here. The field coils are the positive side of this circuit, and they're around the case of the housing of the armature here. Now let me, a second. You could do this one of 2 ways. You could do it, you could just pop these out while the holder is still in there. You plop out the actual positive brushes, or you could put a piece of paper between the positive brushes and the commutator here. This is called the commutator, and that's segmented, the segment here. I'll get to in a second. So you could put 2 pieces of paper in there to block the positive brushes. Then you continue doing this test, which I'm going to show you right now, to test the field coils. Same thing with the digital multimeter. You put it on your ohm scale, your highest ohm scale, test it, make sure it's good. In my case, it reads 0.1, so it's good. I like to hear that sound. And what you do here is you take the actual thick cable that goes to your solenoid, you put one probe there, it doesn't matter which one. Then you put another one on the other positive brush, and you should have a good reading there. 0.3, 0.2. 0.2. So it's 0.1 above, so that's perfect. If this was OL, it would be open circuit, your field coil is bad. Same thing here, let's try the other one. You grab the positive here and the other brush. 0.3, 0.2, 0.2, that's good. Now depending on the way this is wound up in here, sometimes, well, I would do this anyway then. I would just do between the 2 brushes just to see what that is. 0.3, same thing. But that all depends on how everything's wound up in there. I'm pretty sure that should work for all of them. Alright, for all the ones I've seen. So now, like I said, if that's open, or if that's high resistance, that means if it's a high resistance, if it's too high, that means something's broken in there, a winding is broken, or it's about to go. If the reading is too low, or exactly what it was when you touched the two ends together, when you tested your multimeter, then that could mean that there's a short in the windings. Now, what a short is, instead of the coil going around and going where it needs to go, there's actually a break in the coil, and instead of going around, it actually connects together at a shorter distance, and it creates a lower reading on your resistance ohm meter over here. So that'll be a short. Now, when you're here, one thing you want to do is you take the actual bolts, that long bolt that was down here. Now, mine's already off, but if it's not off, this is sometimes hard to take off. So what I like to do is you put this bolt in here and touch it on the case. But make sure there's nothing in here in the way when you're putting it in here. And make sure it just bottoms out on the actual cap underneath. Then you take a hammer and lightly tap on that bolt, and it'll dislodge the cap underneath. So I've done that a couple of times. That's pretty cool. And let me take this off. This is your armature, and this is your field coils in there, your positive. Now what happens is, like I said, there's what they call pole shoes. Let me see if you can see that. You see those two? One here, one there. There's 4 of these. The coils wrap around there, and these are called the pole shoes, and these magnetize. Now, once there's current that flows around these, like when you actually connect it to a battery, those things actually become magnets, like electromagnets. So once you introduce electricity to a conductor like metal like this, it turns into a magnet. And that's gonna come into play later when I show you exactly how this DC motor works. This is a direct current motor. And all DC motors are pretty much the same as this. Same thing here, always visually check your gears, make sure they're all good, there's no scoring, there's no chipped teeth or anything like that. And always put some grease on your gears. Make sure this is the bearing here. Make sure there's no binding, make sure it turns freely, there's no noise, that's good. And the bottom too, there's a bearing in this one, that's good. And like I said before, if you want to take this bearing out, you put a little puller here. You can get it from AutoZone or whatever, and you just, as you tighten on the top, this just pulls it out. And the new one, you just put it back in. Should be real easy to do. So this is how this works. The brushes sit on this commutator here. This is called a commutator. And these windings here, first they're enamel coated. And that enamel coating is so they don't touch each other. In case you were wondering, because I was wondering that too one day. Long time ago when I was a young clown. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So, what happens here is those brushes touch here. And remember, these coils, they go down here. These are called the segments. The stack segments. And these, the coils go around these inside. They wound up in there, around the actual inside of the armature. They're wound up. Then so they begin on the commutator and they end at the commutator. That's very important to know that, because I have a diagram that I drew for you guys. Also, one other thing to note here: if this is very dirty, the commutator segments, these are all segmented. I would take a little fine piece of sandpaper and just sand them all down. Sometimes that's your issue, and you could save a couple $100 just doing that. So, now that you know that, let me show you the diagram here to explain how this works. Please forgive my drawing abilities. So this is basically what we have in a DC motor. Okay, this here is a battery. If you can see that. This is your battery, this is your negative, and this is your positive. This is the brushes, and this is the commutator. So, the brushes, let's keep it simple. This is the segments here, the stack segments. Okay, that's these. And that's the commutator here. That's the commutator here. And this is the armature. Now, and this here is the actual casing. And this is a pole shoe here and a pole shoe here. I know there's 4, but I'm keeping it simple. And I'm also keeping it simple. It's only one wire here. One winding, sorry. One winding here. So, whenever you have a magnet, you have a north and south pole. Like I said, when you introduce current to it, an electric conductor, like a metal, or in this case windings with metals here, the segments, it also turns into a magnet which has poles. Now let's say the poles in here are, one is south, one is north. The commutator, remember like I said, the winding starts the commutator and ends the commutator. So you put a negative charge here, goes to the winding, and a positive charge here goes to the winding. And on one side, let's say in this instance, this is negative charged and this is positive charged. So let's just say, for example, this will then turn into a north, this will turn into a south, and this will turn into a north. Now opposites attract, north and south attract. South-south repel, north-north repel. So if this is south and this is south, it's going to want to move around, away from south. It's going to repel away, so it could come to the north. And this will move from the north, go to this, try to go to the south. Now once that happens, and you're almost halfway there and it's about to cross over, that's when this turns also, the commutator, and it reverses polarity. Now your negative is a positive now, and your positive is a negative. So once that happens, again, this will change from north to south, south to north. Now my first example, I had south, south here, north, north here, and it was turning and south was coming over here. Now it was attracting here and repelling here. Now once you're here, then this will turn into, once you reverse polarity and it's around here, it's going to turn into north. So it's going to start repelling again once it passes this via the momentum. So it's going to go around, around, around. And that's what happened. That's how DC motor works, folks. Really easy. So you're using magnetism and its properties of being attracting and repelling south and north poles to move an actual motor on the inside. In this case, the gear. So, now you know something you didn't know. And hopefully this clown educated you. What else do I want to talk about? Another thing. How to test this armature. Real easy, folks. Again, your ohm meter, test it. Mine's good. The first test you want to do is, sorry about that. You test one segment on the commutator with the next segment and see the reading. 0.3 in my case, 0.2, 0.3, which is good. Now if it was the same as when I touched it, 0.1, then you have a short. The actual windings are cut and they touched each other, which is no good. And you want to do that, say this is the first segment, the second segment, you do between 1 and 2. So let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the segment's a number, let's say. So you do 1 and 2, then you do 2 and 3, 3 and 4. Now, if you have high resistance, the numbers are high, that means you have, it's about to go bad, or it's cut somewhere, it's not actually going. If it's OL, then it's cut somewhere. But if it's high resistance, that means it's about to go. So that's one test you want to do on this. A second test would be what I call a 180-degree test. You do like number 6 and number 12, like on a clock. Then you do the reading. You should be within the same specs I just mentioned. And you keep on going like that, around, 180 degrees. Half, 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 half. And another thing here is there should be there should be a zero resistance between the actual segments here, the stack segments, and the actual commutator. So if you put one probe here, it should be no resistance, it should be open. Now just go around, and do for every single one. And that will tell you if there's a problem with the armature. Alright folks, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. If you have any questions, you could ask me below. Or if you're single and you're hot, between the ages of 24 and 30 something, 32, 33, 34, you could drop me your phone number. Because I'm a single clown. Well, anyway, let's get back to topic here. If you like my videos and you want to see more of these videos, just check underneath, like, you could like me on Facebook, and subscribe so you could be, sorry about that, so you could be updated anytime I make a new video. So thanks for watching, and please come again to this clown's channel. Ta-ta.